Hello, this is Carol Ward on Healing Poetry, a Ministry of Words. This chapter is number 4 and it's called Acceptance and Aspiration. Now, when we think of poetry, we often associate it as a kind of a niche pastime. In other words, it's something that kind of isn't always that popular, even though it's engaged a lot more people in recent years. When we discuss poetry, often people gain success later in life or at their early stages, or even after their death. They may not have achieved anything during their careers, and then suddenly everyone says how wonderful they are when they've gone, and that's quite sad, really, isn't it, that they've never really achieved what they've wanted to in life, but they've had the popularity when they can't see it. But then doesn't that kind of take away the kind of essence of what poetry is all about? Because it isn't really about achieving. It's more about, for me, poetry is more about the esoteric, the kind of spiritual and the emotional, really. So when I think of my own journey in poetry, I often reflect that there have been times when I've worked really hard at poetry and I've not really got anywhere. And I think when you get to that point, you have to sometimes accept that that is the way things are at the moment. And sometimes when you feel, actually, with all the talent that I may think I have, doesn't matter how much application you give, you're not getting anything out of it. But then again, is that against the purpose of what poetry is all about? And then there may be times when you're on top of the tree, effortlessly gliding towards prizes, success, everything you've already wanted. There always seems to be some kind of, some kind of philosophy which guides you towards, there's some prophecy on the internet which says, you can achieve this level of success, you can get money from doing this, that, and the other. And I often think there's no kind of right or wrong way to go about things. I think just really, if you want to be successful in poetry, a lot of it is about working hard, reading, writing, of course, and finding time for it, really, finding a consistent avenue where you can read, write, and get your word out. Because a lot of the time now it seems to be about promotion. There's a lot involved in marketing, and also not being too hard on yourself when things aren't going to plan. You may be saying to yourself, well, I'm really going for it and nothing's happening. And sometimes you just got to sit back and say, look, accept things are the way they are now. It may change in a couple of years' time with all the work you're putting in. So I think it's important not to be too hard on yourself if things are not going well. At least I say that to myself some of the time. So yeah, that's the acceptance part of what I'm discussing. But aspiration, I think it's good to have aspiration with poetry, because even though it's got a spiritual kind of otherworldliness about it, I think it's significant that that you need to kind of stop thinking about the results and kind of work on kind of the here and now, really. Things like what's going on around you, the present, engaging with your senses. I think it's really useful to do that. So to kind of conclude what I'm discussing, really, which is more like a ramble than anything else, but there you go. I think acceptance and aspiration are good in poetry. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But you shouldn't be too hard on yourself if things aren't going well. And it's good to be aspirational, but not to get carried away with your dreams. And that was Healing Poetry, a Ministry of Words. Acceptance and aspiration. Thank you very much.